All right, the floor is yours, Stefano.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here at Virtual 2016 and see so many faces. I'm Stefano, founder of Britemind and one of the founders of Jolla before that. And I'm here to tell you a story. It's a story that starts a long, long time ago. When I was a kid, I was about 12, 13 years old. I remember it was a hot day about this period of the year in Italy, where I was staying with my family. And it was a family reunion where there's a lot of friends and family. And I remember I was playing with some friends in the yard, and my father and some other friends were talking somewhere else. So at some point, they pulled me in the discussion, and they asked me, "So, Stefano, what do you want to do when you are a grown-up?" I was like, I paused for a moment, and in a split second, said, "I want to be an engineer." Like that. And I really didn't know what I was getting into, to be honest. Nor I knew why I was saying that. But turned out I actually became an engineer. So I went to the university, took a master's, lots of sweat, studies, exams, and whatnot, and I actually became an engineer. And I think I was an engineer ever since. And then when, like many other engineers, wanted to find a job, I thought, why not to go in the best company of the world at that time, which was Nokia. And that's how I came from Italy to Finland to work for Nokia in a unit that was doing Linux devices. But then I remember that I was very excited, and I was trying to network, and I got to know this guy, another engineer. And we were in the Nokia Research Center, and he was showing to me this Symbian device. He was pointing at the square in front of the Nokia Research Center, and there was the camera on, and he was showing this picture of the square. And on top of that, some information were overlaid. It was 2006, so it was quite some time ago. And I was like, this is really, really cool stuff. Why don't we just send it out? When can I use it? Just let me use it. And the guy said, no, this is just a research program. I don't know if it will ever go out, if we'll ever make a product. These guys up there. I was like, this is a shame. I mean, this is such amazing technology in 2006. We only have it, we in Nokia. Why don't we just put it out? And I might have kind of sensed that something was off at the time, but I really knew that something was off when in 2011, Nokia decided to stop the MIGO program where I was working. And at that very day, I became something more, an entrepreneur. And I wasn't coming from a family of entrepreneurs. I was really just an engineer. So it was a completely new word, a completely different word. And I didn't really understand the language of the executives, of the business guys, of the investors. It was something completely different for me. It was not something that it was inside me, and I wasn't understanding. So I was in a struggle. I was really struggling to get into something. When we started Jolla in 2011, to get into that world was really, really tough. And I realized that there were two different languages. One language for the technology world and one language for the business world. And I only knew one. I only knew the technology word, the technology language. So at that point, I didn't know. I didn't understand. I didn't know what to do. So like I usually do when I don't know what to do, I asked for help. I went to Tommy, which was the CEO of Jolla at that time, and asked him, and I said, "Look, Tommy, I'm not understanding you. We just don't connect. So how can I do? Let me understand. Help me, please, because I don't understand what this word is about. It's like completely different language. Just I can't." And he was very kind and very generous, and he took me through a journey of personal growth and learning, and he made me understand this other word. So I picked up one word here, another word there, and then at some point I found myself in the middle of these two words, the business and the technology. I was the head of R&D in Jolla, and I was also a board member. I was also a manager. I was many things. But at that point, I was in the middle, and I was understanding both languages, and this really helped me tremendously from that point on. Because I was no stranger in either words. I could talk both with investors, and I could talk both with developers and testers and whatnot. And that really changed the way how I was looking at the world. I could tell many other stories about Jolla, but there is one specific story which I wanted to tell for you. Because VR is a new technology. VR is something that it's been there for a long time, but it still has to get there. And it's a story when we were starting to do the crowdfunding campaign for the Jolla tablet. In 2014, we decided to make a new product, a tablet, and we wanted to do it with the help of the community, so we wanted to do a crowdfunding campaign. But at that time, in the company, there was a pretty big disconnection between the business world and the technology world. So I had to admit that we had a problem. And that was a real problem. It was something that really was creating a lot of friction inside the company between the two worlds. So I started studying. I just started reading books and watching videos and documenting myself, articles and whatnot. And one day I sent an email to the marketing guys. And I told them, look, you should really read this stuff, because this is important for us right now. And then I did another time the same thing, and then again, and then again. And that email chain started a discussion with the marketing team, and little by little we got closer. We understood each other, and that really helped the company to come together to understand the real purpose of why we were doing what we were doing. So that was the beginning, or at least I like to think it was the beginning of the crowdfunding campaign, and the tagline that powered that campaign and allowed us to get $2.5 million in pledges. But this communication was the key, was the sparkle that helped the whole company to come together and understand what the technology was doing and put it in real words, understandable for real people. And I have to admit, I as an engineer, I wasn't really good at communication. On average, I have to say that that's pretty true for a lot of engineers. But I think that especially at this time, when there are new technologies that are entering the market, and especially when the technology is permeating and it's entering in so many different businesses that before didn't know anything or didn't see or have a need about technology. Especially at this time, we engineers, we should really step up and learn a new language, like I did. Because only if we collaborate between technologists and business guys, only then we can build technologies which are successful. So if I look back at this story from the distance, I can't stop thinking at that guy at the Nokia Research Center that showed me that fantastic prototype. And I can't stop thinking what would have happened if that guy would have had a bit more storytelling. And him, like many others in Nokia at that time. Maybe today we would have had a Nokia Gear VR instead of a Samsung Gear VR. Or at least I like to think that we will be living in a different future. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Do you have time for some questions?
Yeah, I was saying that I can stay here for some questions.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Stefano,
Thanks.
sharing the story with us. Very inspiring. Is there anyone who would like to ask Stefano something?
I'm curious about the Jolla.
Yeah.
What do you think about Jolla?
What
are you thinking about Jolla?
What do I think about Jolla? Well, I think a lot of things about Jolla, of course. I have left the company already in December, and it's already almost 6 months I'm not there. I'm still a shareholder, and I know a few things. I think that the technology that we have there in Jolla, it's still very valuable, but we haven't yet found a way to bring it to the market in a meaningful way. So if we manage to bring this technology to the market, or someone else managed to bring this, so if we manage to really strike a licensing deal with someone, as we are trying to do right now, then I think that we still have a chance. And that should happen during this year. At least that's what I hope and what I think. Thanks.
Thank you. How about anyone else in the audience? Some questions?
Yes,
one moment.
I can repeat the question if he doesn't want to travel.
Quite small room, but
Yeah, we have the streaming. That's why we use the mic.
of course.
Yeah.
My question is, can you bring some more like examples from the storytelling point of view? What to consider
As an engineer or as a person?
as a storyteller?
As a storyteller.
Background.
Well, I think that the main point in storytelling is really take people through a journey with you. It is not very important, the style. I'm not the best storyteller ever. Actually, they're much better than me. But I like to take people through a journey. And if that journey can be meaningful and you can relate to that kind of journey, then you have built a story that actually remains in you. It doesn't matter what I say, the exact words. It doesn't matter what I wanted to say, it matters what you understand. So in telling a story, I don't have necessarily to send a specific message, but I have to bring you with me. I have to bring you within my words. And if I manage to bring you in that word, then we will be together in there. And I think that only through this kind of common journey or shared journey, you can actually, do something better. Just not telling stories. I mean, telling stories is nice. I like to tell stories. But if the stories are meaningful and they mean something to you, they don't have to mean the same thing to me, to the storyteller. It has to mean something for you guys, because you are the listeners. You are the audience. And if you can relate any of your past experiences or future experiences to the story which I told, then I kind of strike close to home. So that is probably the only thing I can... I mean, I said, I don't know a lot about storytelling. I just tell stories.
Can I have a quick question also? When you mentioned this part of you starting the dialogue with your marketing team, and you said also that engineers should learn another language. But isn't it sort of a two-way street? I mean...
Yeah, it is a two-way street, but it's seen from my point of view. I see your point. I think that, let's say that they are better storytellers than engineers. So that's why I think that we should come a bit closer. Or maybe it's just a self-reflection on me. I also think that sometimes technology is rather complex and complicated to understand, and it's much easier to approach these, or let's say to step up from the technology point of view and going into a marketing world, or let's say I want to into a business world, not just the marketing world, but into a business world, than vice versa. But again, it's seen through my eyes, and that was my personal journey. I should ask to the marketing guys and see what they think about it.
No, that would be interesting. Well, there's 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you for a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Could you concretize some of the disconnect in the languages?
Yeah.
I don't intuitively sense it, so.
Right. So let me try to think for a moment. Let's say that I present a plan to the board or to the management team. And that plan is extremely detailed, and it has a lot of information. And then when I get to the board, I'm given 2 minutes of time, or 3 minutes maximum. And since I'm a detail-oriented guy, I go through all the details. And the board doesn't understand that, or doesn't even want to hear that. They want to hear the aggregate part. So that's one example. It is the love of the detail. It's not even the attention to detail. It's the love of detail which I have, and which I had as well, which helped this disconnect. That's one example. Let me think another example. At least I talk in plural, but let's talk about me, okay? I was very much, it was very tough for me to find the right words. Well, it's sometimes very easy for sales and marketing guys to find the right words. So I really had to make an effort to learn, I wouldn't say a new language, but a better language, to actually explain what I wanted to say to these guys in a way, in a form that would be understandable on the other side. Or maybe it's just me and I have mental problems, I don't know. but at least I found out, relating with many other types like me, that this was the case. So those are just two points, but there are many more.
I think we had Sunny over there.
Yeah. Hi, Stefano.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Again.
Hey, Jolla was a great story, or is a great story. It's like a brave, almost insane story.
I've been called nuts many times.
Yeah, which I love, obviously. This is for the crazy ones. So how was it? What's your story now that drives you forward? What's the What is the story you tell yourself what you want to see in your third role?
The story I tell myself. Well, I felt a lot of pain through these 10 years of experiences. Felt a lot of pain that, and if I can take those stories, this one and many others, as I said, I have many stories which I can share. If I can take those stories and those learnings, those experiences to other people, to at least avoid 10% of that pain. I can't avoid everything, but if I can avoid them 10% of that pain, that would make me much happier. So that's the story I tell myself. That's the story I tell also you and others. I would just like to help. I would just like to take those learnings into an actionable form to other people. And whether those are companies or individuals, it doesn't matter to me. If I can make a change in your life, I can make a change in your company, if I can make a change in the market, that's something that really, it makes me happy. And no, nothing better than be happy.
Peter, you had a question as well.
Yeah, I have this question that it seems to me in general it's actually not just problem of engineers, but it's also a problem for managers who are directly connected to very detail-oriented tasks, including engineering, where they are working closely with engineers. Is that
engineering managers?
The engineering managers, for example, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, like, the more you go into this microcosmos,
yeah,
the harder it is to see kind of the macrocosmos, and then there comes the also the not inability, but kind of maybe not the best. You start to talk in terms, and then you get lost into this.
But
you don't tell the story anymore.
Yeah, I think that you're touching on a tangential, but still not exactly the same problem. So one thing is the connection between two persons, and then another thing is connection between units in organization. So my feeling, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my feeling is that you're referring to the distance between the upper layers and the lower layers, and especially between all the layers in between. And these layers in between, like it was a cake, they create a lot of distance and a lot of abstraction. So the higher you go, the more abstract you are going to be, of course, and the lower you go, the more detailed you're going to be in an organization, especially big ones. I luckily have, or at least the last 5 years, I have worked in a very small organization, about 130 people. So this problem wasn't really present, or at least the way how we had architected the company wasn't showing this kind of problem. But in other companies, like in Nokia before, then it was very, very present, and it was very, very visible. I agree, though, that the deeper you go, the more detail-oriented you are. But I think that it's a problem of this abstraction. So we create layers over layers over layers of abstraction, and not always those layers are justified. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. So we should work towards simplification of these many organizations. Even when, for research, we as human beings, we can only keep about 150 connections in our social circle. And those 150 connections are much smaller than a company of 3,000 people. So of course there has to be some sort of abstraction. But at the same time, we have to be smart, and we have to really sync the lower layers with the upper layers. It doesn't mean that the upper layers have to need to know details, but at least they have to talk about the same story, about the same stuff. They have to go towards the same place. If they don't go towards the same place, then you have problems. Because sometimes, one arm pulls left, the other arm pulls right, and the body kind of gets ripped off.
Thank you. Time for one more question over here.
Hi, Pasi Muranen from Tieto.
Hello, Pasi.
I have a little bit similar experience to you. I started off as a software engineer and growing up in the corporation. And
so I'm not alone.
You're not alone. So learning to discuss with the business people, and I've gone all through that. So they put me as a consultant. So
and your career is finished.
Career basically finished. And I was an architect. Anyway, my question, or more like a reflection or guidance, is that how did you start to understand the salespeople?
how did I start?
Yeah, or, I mean, this is the most complex thing in the world for people usually to pick up. I mean, business is easy, but sales,
Well, everything is difficult in my opinion, not just business is easy, but everything is equally difficult, and everything uses a different register, a different language. I don't know if I really understand deeply sales in general. Though I understand that sales is about connecting. Usually people don't buy things just for the thing, but they buy things to make their life better, right? So they buy what the thing does for them, not exactly the thing itself. So if you manage to connect this thing to their lives, then you might have a sale. I'm not saying that you will, but you might. Now, to understand sales guys, I try to put myself in their shoes. So I try to put, because sales is difficult. For me, as an engineer, there are many more things which are a bit easier for me. But sales is not simple, but because sales is about convincing people. And you convince by influencing their decisions. And you convince by explaining what kind of future they will have with that specific item, service, whatever. So it's always, if you manage to talk about them, the customers, and if you manage to talk about them, the sales guys as well, then maybe you will manage to somehow get closer. I'm not saying that you will understand it, but but you might get closer to them. On the other hand, we engineers think always that you just have to build it and it will sell by itself. Maybe sales guys think that you just have to sell it. It doesn't matter what it is. And neither of those is true. Right? So neither of those is true. You really have to have synergy. You really have to have a direct line between the item that or service that you're trying to sell, the sales guy and the customer. If you don't have, if this is broken to any level, then it's really tough.
And usually it is a bit difficult to get the connection.
Yeah. So how do I understand? So we are human beings, right? We live in a world where everything is virtual, and we are now talking about virtual reality. So this is very relevant. But as human beings, we need the face-to-face stuff. I know, because I've tried, that virtual reality can be a very powerful storytelling device. Very powerful. There are movie directors that are getting closer and closer to virtual reality to exactly tell stories, to put people in first person inside the camera. Not anymore as a viewer, or as a watcher, but inside the camera. And I know that virtual reality is extremely powerful. Of course, after we have solved many other technical or technological problems, weight and sickness and whatnot. So I know that virtual reality maybe can help in specific situations. I don't think in every situation, but in specific situations. But still, I believe that a sale has to be done face-to-face. There is nothing that beats face-to-face. Sometimes you can't have face-to-face, so you have people calling you, which is not very nice. But if that call actually leads to a face-to-face meeting, then you might have a chance. So again, it's about connecting. I wouldn't say connecting people because it's been used already. But but anyway. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stefano.
Thanks.
Okay.
Another lady.
There's one more, and then we need to take the program forward, but please go ahead.
What about if the common language between engineers and sales and marketing people would be the consumers or the customers and their needs? That would be the common language for both parties.
Well, that's in my opinion, it's not a common language. It's a common. It's something that definitely unifies the kind of product development and the business world. However, one thing, and maybe we touched another topic now. So one thing is that usually or historically, we have had companies building products for a while and then selling it, right? So historically, we have had those in two phases. I build, you buy. Right now, the market is changing. And we see through these crowdfunding campaigns, through these many platforms or sharing whatever platforms, that the process of building and selling starts to almost overlap, maybe not completely overlap. So maybe in that point and in those kind of platforms, you can have a common language because you have a common objective and you have something that unifies the sort of production process and selling process. But it doesn't apply to everything yet. And actually it applies to very small percent. So I wouldn't call it a common language, because still we have to find common languages. It's definitely a meeting point, let's say.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you.